Willow Creek Springs presents Healthy Living with your host, Joe Grumbine.
That's when some of the oldest guys, that a lot of them aren't with us anymore, really got started. The Cannabis Buyers Club and some of the legendary risk takers of the old days. That was
Yeah,
96 is when that all started.
yeah. In 96 over here, everybody was too busy taking ecstasy and passing out, but
That's
whatever.
it.
Uh,
Molly was in
uh,
the house.
yeah, it was Molly, you're the Molly. Um, but when it did really, jump off here, I think, and this is why I said there's a lot more research that went on that we don't know about,
Sure.
is that they have gotten everything they can out of the plant. Yeah, they keep coming up with more hybrids and more flavonoids and more terpenes, and they do this and they do that. And you know what? We know what they do. We know what everything does, and they know what everything does. And they also know that if they can move to pharmaceuticals, okay, that's what's going to make money. Weed doesn't make money. Black
Makes
market
less
makes
money today.
money.
Makes
Yeah.
less money today than it ever did.
Yep. 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 And I feel really sorry for people when I see them walk into a dispensary. And it's not that I, hang out in dispensaries all my life, but all my days, I mean to say. But like, they're selling an eighth for $80. Like, come on, really?
Yeah,
You don't even know what that is,
right,
and I mean, we bought weed like that too. We didn't know what we were buying, but we bought
right.
it, but we didn't pay that much money.
Well, and generally though, we bought it from somebody that we had a reference. That's
Yes,
the thing
that
about
knew
the old
somebody.
school that people don't really remember, but there's a level of integrity that happens when everybody's at the same risk.
Yeah.
And the guy that was buying it was risking, and the guy that was selling it was risking, and the guy that was growing it was risking, and we all knew that. And so if uh one link starts to break, and you don't want to do anything to risk getting your guy busted, because then you don't have a guy, number one, and he's not going to risk getting it from a guy who might be flaky because he's not going to take the risk. And so we did old school. You're Italian, I'm Italian, we come from a family background, if you will, but we were careful. and
Yeah.
and those stereotypes, if you will, are based in facts on some level, but it's just really get down to it, and you get down to a system of honor, a system of
Mhm.
integrity, a system of trust, and a system of consequences. And if you got blackballed by your guy, he probably knew a bunch of other guys, and you probably have a hard time finding anything of any value in your town after a little while. And people were a lot more careful, I guess. And nowadays, oh, it's the lab testing that tells you what's right. And I'm like, okay, if you know what I know, you'll realize that that's just a bunch of hooey on top of it all. And yet we don't have a guy we trust anymore the way we used to. And well, some of us do, but I think people walk into a dispensary feeling safe, and the truth is they don't know any more about that dispensary than they knew about the new guy that just came into town.
That's right. That's right. They're just workers,
So
and it sounds, they like the notoriety of working in a dispensary. It's like it always blows me away when I hear that a nurse will say, well, how do I get a job in cannabis? Why? You're not going to make any money doing that. Go be a
right.
nurse in a hospital. Go do what you went to school for, and don't worry about the rest. We'll take care of it. Um, but yeah, you're absolutely right and spot on about that. It is what it is. But the black market still thrives,
Oh yeah.
and it will. It will. And so now with the recent development of really, everybody jumping forward with psychedelics, I'm a little disturbed over that. I want to see it happen. for whoever wants to, do it. And if there's medicinal value in it, God bless America, and all that stuff. Um, but let's not forget where we started, you know?
I
And
agree.
yeah, and so I am a little disturbed about that. I really am. I am investigating everything I can right now about psychedelics because I want to be in the know. Not that I need to be, I don't need to do anything.
Sure.
But I want to be in the know so that when somebody asks a question, I answer it correctly, so that I have all my ducks are in a row. I know how to answer that question. Um, LSD, when it was created by who created it? Aldous Huxley.
No,
Okay.
he wrote about it, but I can't think of the guy's name, but I know it was
Let's see. I got the Harvard Psychedelic Club book right
there
here.
you go. All right, perfect.
Alper
There you go.
Ramdas. Anyway, you know, um, where was I going with this? I lost myself. I lost my train of
LSD when it was first created, and you were
Yeah,
talking
it was
about
first created by these Harvard, geniuses
right,
that they did create it for medicinal purposes. The co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, his name was Bill Wilson. He used acid in the 50s, in the early 50s, because he hooked up with those guys from Harvard and they wanted to try it for alcoholism. So he, his wife, his spiritual advisor, and I'm not talking about anybody that's not dead because they are.
right.
But that's where it began.
Mhm.
So obviously there was something cooking. And back then, and I'm sure you remember this well, everybody was into transcendental meditation and what have you. And the Beatles went to India to go sit with the Maharishi, who ended up having a cult and whatever story that went along with that.
Humans always mess everything up. They get a good thing and they just take it to an
Yeah, yeah,
extreme.
yeah. They got to screw it up. You know what? And then the Stones, of course, they tried to do a repeat Woodstock and somebody
Right,
got killed there because the Hells Angels decided, well, we don't like how this person is acting. And so, yeah, so we got kind of blown out of the water over things like that. But none of it's related.
right.
It's not related. It's cannabis is an herb, it's a plant. You can eat it, you can smoke it, you can do whatever you want with it.
Well, I think the thing that's unusual about cannabis is the fact that for as far as we know, more than 10,000 years,
Yeah.
humans have figured out that it was a valuable plant. And we
Mhm.
don't necessarily know what the cave woman up in, Siberia was doing with the cannabis plant in a little leather satchel, but we know that it was important enough to carry. And
Mhm.
so you think about that and you're like, holy cow, I mean, that's 20, 30, 50,000 years ago that these people or what they were that was eventually people, who knows? I don't know. I wasn't there, but I just know that there was an understanding of a value of a particular kind of plant. And then you think about the history of medicine and the understanding of plants where all the medicine really came from
Yeah.
and things like mushrooms and things like cannabis and things like there's all kinds of they call them ethnobotanicals, but plants that have
Mhm.
toxicity levels that also have mind altering abilities and in many cases have healing aspects. What you find is that these very same plants have multiple compounds in them. And
Yeah.
maybe one is an alkaloid that will cause you an upset stomach or some sickness. But then if you scrape off the outer bark, and you get to the good part, then all of a sudden it'll heal this or that or the other thing. And I think, we stumbled upon just about everything we've learned, but they must have stumbled that plant. I wonder how different it was then to what it is now, and what they discovered. Like what makes you probably they ate it because that's the most likely thing of us to do is stick it in our mouth and chew on it, right?
Right.
But then if you just go and get a bud off of a plant, whether it's a hemp plant or the THC plant, it doesn't matter, and you eat it, it's not particularly friendly. It's not, it's
Not
got
very tasty.
not tasty, it has a bad texture, it kind of sticks to your mouth, and frankly, it doesn't really get you high. And so when you eat it raw, and so I just have to wonder, like, what would cause maybe the seeds, because the cannabis seeds are very nutritious and they have a lot of value. I'm just wondering what drew them, to recognize the value, because I don't think everybody was going around smoking everything that I don't know when smoking began.
You know, you that you just gave me food for thought with that, but think about this. Okay, so they did have fire,
Hmm.
right? Okay, so they had fire.
Right.
So um if they took certain oils
Hmm.
and they boiled up a pot on over the fire,
Hmm.
there you go. There's your cannabis oil,
That's
right?
true. That's true.
I mean,
Yeah, it's
look at
entirely
honey.
possible they made a soup out of it, and all of a sudden this oil bubbles up, and they scooped it off and did something with it. It's
Yeah, and
entirely
it was great, right?
right.
You know, I mean, we know it works for pain, and I can swear to that. I've used it for pain.
Sure.
You know, they're just, crossing the boundaries into women's issues, with menopause. So it works, it helps alleviate symptoms. Um, it works for Dravet syndrome, kids with epilepsy. Look at, what Charlotte's Web was named after Charlotte Fiji. She was a
Exactly.
little girl that had Dravet syndrome. She had what, over 200 seizures a day. That's what that disease has.
Exactly.
I think she died 2 years ago.
Not that
But
long ago,
Stan,
yeah.
yeah, the Stanley brothers, they figured it out. And they were like, okay, well, let's try CBD,
Huh.
and CBD is not non-psychotic. There's no, you know what I want to say. Why
Yeah,
can't I say it? There's
no,
no psychoactive effects from it.
exactly.
It just worked. It just
Right.
worked. And how did they figure that out?
Right.
Trial and error, right?
Exactly.
So to say with our limited knowledge about research and how we figure things out like that, it's that puzzle you put together, you know, and then we have these people that are working in labs with all this high techno equipment. They can do a lot of great things. That's how they started stripping out the flavonoids, and the terpenes,
Sure.
I was buying terpenes from Oregon to make essential oils with. I had no idea that, they were of use for anything else.
Absolutely.
Um, so I don't know. I don't know. It's an interesting time right now, and again, I hate seeing it kicked to the back of the line.
So the organization that you are representing,
Mhm.
I'd like to hear more, because one of the things that I really, a lot of this is people that just have something in common, human rights and all of that. But the Human Solution International is an organization, and a big part of what we have strived to do historically is form partnerships, form alliances, form common ground, and find ways to work together. And all the way back, we started a coalition called the UCCA back about 10 years ago, and that brought a lot of people together for a minute, but it was just too many people that it never went off and did anything. And so the whole time through that, though, I've always tried to say, well, we're always better together. Like, even if all I do is tell somebody about the thing you're doing, or all you do is tell somebody about the thing we're doing, it still helps. And if we can find ways to do that thing together, whatever it is, it helps even more. And I think a lot of times too is just people being able to know that there's a unity amongst groups. There's so much division, and especially unfortunately in the cannabis world
Yeah.
today, it went from we were all together, we're all one, we're all the same, to I'm the guy, I'm the guy, I'm the guy, and it just drove
Mhm.
me nuts. And now there's these, rock stars and rock star groups and all this groupies and stupid shit that don't get anything done. And then you got actual boots on the ground people like the three of us sitting here. And I think to myself, gee, if we could just get all the boots on the ground people that are serious and don't give a damn about, being famous or whatever the hell people are getting out of it, I don't even know. But let's solve this problem. Craig Cecil, who's sitting here with us quiet, I don't know why he's quiet, but he's quiet today. He spent over 18 years in prison for this plant. And yet when he got out, instead of doing what most of the other guys did, is go and get a job at a pot shop or just disappear because it's over, he jumped back in the trenches with us, and he's been helping more than most people I know ever since. And so I just think to myself, if I can give you a voice to tout the work you're doing and the people you're working with, maybe that will help us to work better together and find ways to take each other valuable, to make each other valuable, to say, instead of just saying, oh, I know her, I know what she does, I know who she is, I would rather say, yeah, we do something together, or
We all work together.
Yes, exactly. So
Yeah.
tell us about how you guys do what you do and the scope of it all.
Okay, so the scope of it all. You do not have to be a nurse to
That's helpful. I'm not a nurse.
to
Believe it or not.
probably some of like the education pieces might help if you are, because we are mostly nurses. And so what we are is we are a platform for that particular profession. Now we have other people on there. We provide a lot of education, but this is all education we're going out doing and getting ourselves. Nobody's paying us to do this.
I hear you.
We don't make any money being activists.
Nope.
And that's
Actually
really what
costs quite a bit of money to be an activist if you're doing it right.
Yeah, absolutely it does, because we're the ones that are going out, looking for things and finding out things and researching and what have you, so there's a lot of that kind of stuff. For nurses, there are some educational programs that offer some CEUs, but that's very hard. The continuing education units, that's pretty hard to get, because it's controlled by the government.
Right.
So basically what it is, do you want to learn how to really write something and speak in front of like a group of people, and then go out there on your own and go find it, go do it, so that's what it's all about. It's a platform to give you free reign to go do what you're going to do, because now we have a name.
Right.
We have a name.
Well, one of the
and
things
the name came from a forum.
Oh,
okay. Okay. In, I don't know what year it was, 2007, 2009, whenever I went back on Facebook, I made this forum called the Cannabis Nurses Network. It still exists. You know that because you're on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so from there it morphed into this network. Okay. So all the younger, nurses, I thought that was a great thing for them to be doing. They needed to learn, they needed to listen. There was some really bright people in there that had a lot of different experiences. Heather Manis, she's from New Mexico. She knows so much about the indigenous, ceremonial, sacred art of cannabis, so there's a lot of that kind of difference.
The one with the super long hair, isn't she?
The big long braids, yeah.
Yeah.
And she's unbelievable, but know what?
I met her 15 years ago.
Okay, yeah. And she's so good. She's so bright, and so it kind of like just morphed into this attraction for other people that didn't want to be in the confines of something that had to do with the American Association of anything.
Right.
Okay. this is who we are. Okay. So we're like a group of nurses that we just like want to like, be on the same page, and let's see if we can be and see where it goes.
Right.
And we're still looking to see where it goes.
So
So
I'm wondering that,
I have put myself in with other groups,
okay,
and many others have too.
good.
So there is that push to let's let's join forces.
Yes.
You know, there's too much separation, and I agree with you there.
Well, and I think that underneath it all, the reason that prohibition has been allowed to exist is just simply because of education or lack thereof. And you understand medical curriculum and how the information was uh, delivered, changed, influenced, and now how, how that information is assembled and distributed. And frankly, the pharmaceutical companies are sponsoring all the medical schools, and
Yeah, they
they
are.
they put billions of dollars behind these things and create these, institutions where I don't know, I think their influence over the information stream might be a little problematic, a little bit of a conflict. Well, I do. And and to consider, and I just can't understand. Well, I can't understand because people are ignorant. They just don't know. But I think if the general population knew that there is a human biological system that has been known about for a long time, but today still is not taught as a biological system in medical school.
Yeah, I know.
And then these doctors, and I don't sort of put quotes on it because they are doctors, they've gone through a lot of training, and a lot of doctors do a lot of good, but to miss an essential piece of the puzzle, it'd be like, what if we substituted the endocannabinoid system for, I don't know, the limbic system or the nervous system or the pulmonary system? You wouldn't be a very good doctor now, would you?
Um, I don't know. I have to think about what you just said. I'm married to a doctor. He's a
Okay.
surgeon.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
My dad was.
So did he get any education in medical school? No, not as far as that. And he went to school in Mexico. So
Wow.
you would think one would think that he would get a little bit, but no, no. And and for all you know, the education I have in my background, cannabis was still, thumbs down.
Right.
Um, and I don't know, that's big government though, and that's what we've been fighting with that for like what? How many years now?
Exactly. But the point is I think that if people understood where that information's coming from, and yet we rely on physicians sight unseen. Like people will go and ask their doctor for help, and the doctor will tell them, "Well, go take this drug and that drug," and they don't even question it. They don't do their own research.
I
They don't
know.
do anything. They're like, "Okay, well, the doctor said, so I just do it."
Mhm.
And then the doctor does what a lot of doctors do and follows the program, follows the book, follows the protocol, issues their or their prescription. The patient follows it. Something got forgotten or didn't get caught, didn't get seen, and the patient has a negative response or worse. And then everybody's like, oh my goodness, look at this tragedy. It's a tragedy. No, it's not a tragedy. It's poor practice, and I think that you guys as nurses, I mean, frankly, I know a lot of nurses. I work with a lot of doctors. I work with a lot of nurses. I spent a lot of time as an untrained layperson in the medical community. But the point is, nurses are practically speaking more trained than most doctors because they're practicing all the time on live people, where doctors a lot of times are reading notes and issuing orders rather than actually working on those people. And, there's exceptions to all that, but, if you've been to the doctor lately, when was the last time that they touched you or did anything besides, ordering a test and then coming back and telling you about what happened?
And
And yeah,
that's not even a nurse in the office, you know that, right?
right, exactly. And
That's a
so
medical assistant.
I hear you. And that's the person that's actually doing the weighing and the blood pressure and all that. Like you said, those are maybe an LVN or a nurse's assistant or something like that. They got some basic training, but they're not a trained nurse. And an RN, my sister's an RN an ERRN. So she does basically what you have spent your life doing. And I know the experience and training that you guys have. And frankly, doctors respect you, even if they don't act like it, they do. And so
No, they do.
I got to think, doctors aren't stupid. They're assholes sometimes, but
Mhm.
they're not dumb. And they recognize value when they see it. And if it wasn't for the nurses, doctors would frankly have to work a whole lot more. And who would want that, right? But you guys have a voice. You guys have the ability, I think, to be a huge value to this problem. And I believe the problem is mostly still here because of lack of information. And I think if more people understood not only the value of this plant and what it brings, but more importantly, maybe the safety of it, because people are afraid of what they don't know. And because that was Richard Nixon's brilliance. If people think he's an idiot, he wasn't dumb. He knew that by setting the Controlled Substances Act the way he did, the reason he did it that way and made it Schedule 1 is so that it couldn't be researched. Because they did research initially, right when the act got passed, they did a research that validated its medical use, and that got kiboshed, disappeared, and Schedule 1 remained what it was. But they knew what they were doing, and that's what and so it played on the racism and the fear that people have over things they don't know, and it worked brilliantly. So all the way up until just 10, 15 years ago, people were, still going, oh no, it's going to take you straight to hell, it's going to take you right to the heroin, it's going to take you to the and it's going to kill you by itself. And people didn't realize, or I don't know if they knew and didn't care, but I know a lot of people just simply didn't know. It's one of the safest substances on the planet. And
They didn't know, and what really disturbs me is I've written multiple articles and sent them all over the place, and whether people read them or not, you know what? The information is out there if you're interested, if you
yeah,
want to know, you know. Because I'm not like the only, person in this arena that is writing. People write bigger and better things than I could ever dream of doing. But even the little snippets that you could Google, you know, we have technology right at our fingertips now.
it's
Okay.
so true.
Do you think anybody will use it for those purposes? Well, pharmaceutical companies and big businesses have taken over that too. So so the Silicon Valley, do you know that there is a book? Wait a minute, I'm gonna tell you what the name of it is. Wait, let me
and,
see.
and and Sue, I hate to tell you, we got 3 minutes left of the
All right,
show. Go ahead. And
3 minutes. It's called, do you remember the song White Rabbit? What
oh
the
yeah, of
Dormouse
course.
said?
Oh
It
yeah.
says how the 60s counterculture shaped the personal computer industry. Okay. Somebody wrote a book about that
Right.
in the 60s.
Yep.
Okay.
It's
And
so
there it is.
it's
There it
so
is.
well, listen, we clearly have a lot more to talk about, and I hope you recognize this the way I do. We have a lot to do and a lot of conversation, collaboration, and who knows where it's going to go. But I can definitely see that we have what it takes to do some good work together. I
And
think
it would be great. It really would be.
I am so looking forward to it. So count me in, count the Human Solution in, but me personally, anything I can do to help you guys, I'm there. I think
90 seconds.
one of the things that I wanted to bring up, and I think Craig's going to agree with me, and then Craig will gotta say something because you're part of this. But
He's just been sitting there laughing and listening.
it's all good. It's all good. But Craig's
Had a
always,
crazy day, but thank you. Sorry I'm late.
no, no worries, no worries. We got you. But I just think I want everybody to remember that this is an election year. And there are a lot of representatives and officials that are going to be elected. And every single election year, we forget to ask them about this. And I think that we need to remember to ask them, and we can participate more and more in these town hall meetings, and they make the general public easier to communicate, and it's not hard to create a campaign. We need to get together and get this message out, because we know what they do. They tell us what they're going to do, then they don't do it. But nowadays we get them on the record saying what we're going to do. We can hold it over their head a little bit. And I think every 4 years it happens, and every 4 years I'm like, why didn't anybody talk about it? And every 4 years we don't talk about it. So I think we need to talk about it. I think we need to, until the federal government does something, and hopefully they do the right thing, this is not going to end. And you know, states' rights, I'm all for, don't get me wrong, but the states are all bound by the federal government supremacy clause, and there's nothing we're going to do about that. So we need to get out there and start asking these people. Craig, go ahead and give us your parting shot, and then I'll give Sue the last word.
Okay, but I like your question you've asked is how did people come to know to put marijuana in their pocket thousands of years ago? That I'm still working on the answer to that one.
But they did.
And sadly, the John Q. public, they still don't look at marijuana as medicine. I mean, that's just not the number one view from the street. It's it's there with alcohol. It's there with, LSD. It's there with, anything that, has other intoxicating effects. And I think that's where we have to work on that education. I'm fighting here in Illinois and was turned down. I was helping somebody to open up a cannabis store in a really depressed part of Chicago. And we had the zoning, had the license. They had to have the zoning approval to open it. The people of the neighborhood did not want the store, even though they need the jobs, because they were afraid, oh, well, that's a drug and drug brings crime.
Yeah.
But there was no, this could be a benefit for so many people.
I wonder, what if a group like Sue's group came out to the town and put up a town hall meeting, give everybody a chance to ask their questions and have medical professionals answer them? I can't help but wonder, maybe there's a place in that, maybe even if it was just virtual or having a representative, or, maybe there's a play that says, as a resource, a resource center, this is where to go when you don't have those answers. And maybe, Craig, if you had known that there was a group that you could have brought to the community, I mean, I'm just spitballing here, but maybe there's a play here, because you're right. And it keeps coming down to ignorance and fear.
Yes.
And those two are.
And of course, everybody yells that, a predominantly black neighborhood does not have a store.
Right.
A depressed area doesn't have those jobs and things like that.
Right.
But yet, there's education that's missing that would get them to accept it, like the rich neighborhood 10 miles north of there did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Agreed.
This is a discussion that we need to continue.
Good. I like that.
Okay.
We will. And Sue, I'm going to give you the parting shot, and then I'll give a little preview of next week, and we'll go from there.
Okay, so if anybody is interested, if you want to go on to our network, it's www.cannabisnursesnetwork.com. It's that easy. And I post it all over the place. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, any place you want, you can find us. And please reach out. Joe knows how to find me.
Exactly.
And I guess Craig will too.
Yep.
So and we'll all talk. And so thank you all for listening. And I hope we made a little bit of a difference. And peace out, everybody.
Awesome. I think we did, and I'm looking forward to continuing this conversation. And everybody, we got a great guest lined up for next week. In about a day or two, we'll be posting the event for it. The show is ramping up. We're getting guest schedule weeks in advance now, and so if you want to be part of the show, get with me. And Sue, I can't wait to further this discussion. Count me in with any of your discussions whatsoever, and we'll schedule the next episode sometime soon.
Okay, great.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Thank you,
I'm
Good
in.
night, everybody.
Show. We'll see you next week.